Okay, what we're going to do first is actually glue the book cloth on the covers. If you are using painted covers, or if you are using just some paper to decorate them, this is also a good time to do that, because once you have painted or glued your book cloth or paper on the covers, then you need to press them and let them dry flat while you're working on the rest of your book, or fixing your signatures. Okay, so what we do is we lay one of the covers on there, and then we need to trim all of the corners. Now I'm not going all the way to the edge, I'm leaving a little gap. And same thing on this one. You want to make sure that it's centered where you're going to be gluing it. Okay, and because this is book cloth, I'm actually going to use my wheat paste that I've made. And the wheat paste you make by combining 5 parts of water to 1 part of wheat flour, and then you cook it until it starts to boil, and then you let it boil for between 3 and 5 minutes until it starts getting translucent and real kind of creamy and gluey looking. And then you let it cool slightly, and then you put it through a sieve. And if you're not going to use it immediately, then you need to refrigerate it, because it does spoil and it really smells bad if you forget it in your art room. Okay, so I spread a smooth film of the glue over the paper. Now I'm pressing the book board or cardboard down, and then I need to bring all of these edges back and over. And you want to try to make sure that there are no gaps or bubbles around the edge. Push it down, and then you kind of push down the little corners, because there's a little bit of extra. Whoop. Okay, so I push down these corners. Then pull that up over. Press that down. Do the same thing on the opposite side. Okay, and then you can take your bone folder and kind of pull out any little bubbles that might be there. You can do the same thing on the front. Okay, so that's that. I actually don't want to lay this on top of where I've already glued, so make sure you get the glue to all the edges, otherwise you won't get a good adhesion there. You don't want any big globs of glue either. The nice thing about wheat paste is that it doesn't dry real fast, so it gives you time to rework things if you've accidentally put something on crooked or something like that. And it's also very archival, which means that it doesn't it shouldn't rot, and it shouldn't make things so that you can't repair your book if it gets damaged. You can Okay, so there I have these two. I'm going to turn papers over. And now I need to put the inside papers on. And you can either use PVA or wheat paste on these. Because they're actually going on book cloth, you might want to just stick with the wheat paste, and that is just fine. You can also actually mix some wheat paste with the PVA, which makes it dry a little bit faster, but it's still not as fast as just straight PVA. Try to center it as well as you can. Use your bone folder. Work from the center out to kind of smooth out any bubbles. Okay, then set that aside. I'll go ahead and just use PVA on this because it's handy. You don't want your glue to be puddly and, you know, like having so much that it is just oozing everywhere, but you want to have a good coverage. Now the problem with using PVA is if I decided that I didn't want this like that, it would be harder to get back off without damaging it. While the wheat paste, you could pull it off while it was still wet and it wouldn't be a problem. Okay, so now what I want to do is press these under a book, and you can actually put some waxed paper over your, you know, wrap it in wax paper in case there is any glue oozing out anywhere. It won't get on your books or whatever it is that you're pressing it on. And so this is the outside of our covers, and this is the inside. Okay, so now what you need is a hole punching guide, and what you want to do is cut a piece of paper that is as long as your signatures. And so let's just see how this one is. This one's a little bit long right there, so I'm just going to trim that off. Okay, and then you fold it in half, and then you take your paper and you fold it in half lengthways after you have folded it in half vertically. Okay, and then you take each side and you can fold it in half just like that, or you can fold each side down and down. Okay, and then you take each of these sides and you fold it up and up, and then you can also fold each of these down and down. Okay, so you have like a little accordion folded paper. Then you unfold it, and different binding techniques require either odd or even numbered sewing stations. A 2-needle Coptic binding requires an even number, so you can, they don't have to be evenly spaced. So in this one I have a mark here at this little crossing, and then I skipped one, and then I have another mark at this crossing. I skipped one, marked that one, skipped one, and marked the bottom one. Then you want to mark the top, either with an X or with a word or with an arrow. This is another one, and in this one I created 6 sewing stations. Also at the crossing of the vertical and horizontal line. Okay. For the Coptic binding where you sew across the spine, or along the spine I mean, this is the one where you sew across the spine. You have to have an odd number of sewing stations. So this one we're going to use an even number, and I'm going to go ahead and just do 4 sewing stations, so that I will first be sewing these 2, and then I'll be sewing those 2. Okay, then what you want to do is take all of your signatures and mark each one at the top. And just mark it lightly so that you're not, you don't have a permanent mark there. It's just a light mark in pencil. This way you can keep all of your signatures oriented the same way. If you have some of them punched in this direction and some punched in this direction, your sewing on the spine is going to look really, really messy. Then to pierce these so that you can sew through them, you take your awl, and it's pretty much perpendicular to this line, and you want to go straight through. So you're looking in there, place the awl right in that spot, and then you kind of close it a little bit. You make sure that your awl isn't going at a wild angle that way or that way, because it'll be hard to get your needle to follow that. Try to make sure that your finger isn't over the spine when the awl comes through, because they're very sharp. If it's sticking a little bit, you can kind of twist it. I don't know if you can see, but kind of twist it through rather than trying to power through it, because if it goes through really fast, you could end up jabbing your finger, or you could end up ripping your paper. And go ahead and complete that with all of your signatures.